the other one. What's up? Sorry about that for everyone, but what's up? It is Monday, June 14th, and Thomas complaining about his computer problems. Well, now that my good headphones don't charge, so I have to use these headphones, which means I have to plug them into the USB, which means I can't use my mouse. So that means I have to go like this with my finger on the little pad thing. I'm struggling.
It's a struggle bus.
What's up?
No, I didn't hear what you said. You cut out there. Not much. I got my new digs. I'm now moved down into the basement. We have our little area where I record now. We moved my desk into the basement, and I'm all set up once my computer decides to work and the internet decides to connect.
Yeah, Tom's complaining about his internet, and it's 100% better than mine still, so that's good. How's work?
Taxes, hotel work,
Oh, that sounds like nerd book stuff fun. Wish I was doing that. No, I do.
Money's money, Money's
so
money.
I had an interesting, not really exchange, but it made me feel old for a little bit. And I'm not old. I'm only 28, but I am old. So I was just perusing through Twitter on I think Saturday, and somehow I came across this Twitter account. It's called Coach Casey Smith. It's at Coach Casey Smith, like 13U or something, and I didn't know if it was for sure a parody account, so I texted my cousin who plays baseball in college right now, and I was like, hey man, like, you got to let me know if this is a parody account, because if it's not, we should probably get the cops calling this guy. But it's Coach Casey Smith on Twitter, and I just got to read some of just maybe one or two of these tweets, because they are hilarious now that I know it's a parody account. All right, on June 10th, just made one of my best pitchers switch jerseys so I could pitch him in the semis and the championship game. 217 pitches of straight filth. Elbow pain is temporary. 13U state championships last forever. Hashtag be elite. Here, I'll get another one up. I'll get another one up. All right. This one's good. This is on April 12th. Just cut Michael, in parentheses, my adopted son, from the team mid-practice after he raised his hand and asked for a water break. Go join a sport like swimming if you expect there to be water provided at every practice, son. Hashtag be elite. And then the last one, April 10th. If the MLB doesn't have a pitch count limit, neither will my 13U team. If Alex is still dealing 134 pitches in, you bet your ass he's finishing the game. Elbow pain is temporary. Bracket play games are forever. Hashtag be elite.
Bracket play game. That sounds awesome.
I got a kick out of that, and I thought it was a parody account, but I was like, I feel like baseball, like parents kind of like it's a like heavy like prep sport kind of thing. Like I feel like that could be a real thing at some point, but luckily Coach Casey Smith isn't out there, ruining all of your sons and daughters' ever chance of basically playing baseball till past the age of 12. So that's good. That was fake. I figured we start off with something light because we do have to get into some more serious things. Okay, so Tom saw it. Everyone, I was thinking about putting the video in, but I didn't want to. It's bad, and it was a terrible scene. Christian Eriksen, who plays for Inter Milan and Denmark, collapsed on the ground in their match versus Finland right before halftime. If you have seen the video, he basically passes the ball out of bounds. Throw and hits him in the face. He falls in dead on his face. Like he was dead for about 10 minutes. And then the medics came out. It was terrible to watch. I had no idea what was going on. And the medics came out, and basically he was dead for legally dead for 10 minutes, and they resuscitated him with CPR and other things. And so he was taken off the field in a stretcher and then taken to the hospital, where he's still undergoing tests, but he is stable, talking. He sent a message to the Denmark players this morning. I think some of them have seen him. So that was a big issue, and obviously it was a terrible scene. I need to give a shout out, not even a shout out. I mean, these guys deserve medals. I don't know how to say his one name. Simon Kjær is a midfielder for Denmark, and then Kasper Schmeichel is their goalkeeper. He plays for Leicester City, and they were the first ones over to him. They knew something was really wrong when it happened, and Simon Kjær basically cleared his airways so that oxygen was still flowing and oxygen was still getting to your brain, because if you go into cardiac arrest, oxygen stops flowing to your brain, and that's how people become brain dead. So he kept his oxygen flowing, so that, I mean, huge. And then Schmeichel basically positioned him so the oxygen was still flowing, and so he could be performed, CPR could be performed immediately. And basically those two guys saved his life. Kasper Schmeichel has seen, and I don't want to use profane language, but I have to. He's seen some shit in his career. He was in 2018. Leicester City's owner's helicopter took off from the field after a match, crashed outside, burned up in flames. Kasper Schmeichel was the first person on the ground, boots on the ground, went into the fire, tried to save people. Unfortunately, they all passed away. So he's seen some stuff. And so shout out to them, and everything with Eriksen. Right now, it's good, hopefully, but I'll be updating, and I'm sure you'll see my Twitter updating about it. And now I take it to two different segments. I'll go to UEFA first. So UEFA, after this happened, they basically didn't know what to do, really. So they kind of they asked what they said at the time was they asked the Denmark players if they wanted to play or they wanted to postpone it. And together, collectively, obviously their minds are nowhere near the game at all like that. And they were like, you know what, we're not going to feel any better tomorrow morning. So let's just do it now. They ended up losing, which is obviously miniature to like what else is going on. And then today it came out that the Denmark Soccer Federation, whatever, criticized UEFA because they basically gave them two options. Like, you can go out and play now, or we'll give you like a couple hours, then you still have to play today. So if that's true, then UEFA needed to, I mean, UEFA is already one of the most corrupt organizations in the world. I mean, Sepp Blatter, the Qatar World Cup next year, and I'll get to that as well. It was basically bribed by him. He got a couple $1 million, and that's why the Qatar World Cup is supposed to be basically taking place on the equator next year in the summer. So that's really smart. I'll get to that. So UEFA, even if the Denmark players had said, you know what, let's play right now, the UEFA has to have the oversight and the thing, like just the oversight and the looking into things that, like, you know what, let's just postpone it till tomorrow. Because, and I said this, like, if you postpone it till tomorrow, yes, the players, their heads aren't going to be completely in the game tomorrow either. No one's is. You're not going to get over it. It's going to be in their heads the rest of the tournament, and it's terrible. And but if you think about it, you let the players go home. They get to see their loved ones, talk to their loved ones, kiss their loved ones. They have a meal. They probably go see Eriksen at night. Then they get some sleep. Then they go to see Eriksen again in the morning. And then you play that match in the morning. And there was, in my opinion, there was just no reason to play it that day. Like, they have protocols in place to take it to the next day, so they should have. And I think UEFA failed miserably once again. And the second thing, which it involves kind of us, and I don't know if people are going to like that I say this. When Eriksen was down on the ground, and the whole Denmark team basically formed a circle around him, so no media, no one could see inside. They didn't want anyone seeing it. And his wife or girlfriend, I'm not sure, he has a kid with her, so they're very close, whatever. She came down to the sideline and was obviously in shock, horrified, devastated, sobbing her eyes out. And then Schmeichel, and once again, those two came over to console her as they were crying because, I mean, once again, just great men. And then the thing happens where you get the cameraman and he zooms right in on her face. And I did this to myself. I came out and said it was a classless move and you can't do that. But after thinking about it, I don't blame the cameramen. I blame more their whoever's above them. I blame them more, and I don't really blame them either. Because yes, it looks bad, and it's horrible. But as kind of you're probably more of it than me. Like in the media, like that's the shot of a lifetime. Like no one wants to view that shot, but that's the shot of a lifetime. And you also have to think, in my opinion, most of these camera guys, for the past year, they've been sitting alone in these stadiums with no fans. And so when something horrible as this happens, their only instinct is to just get what they can, like the most important things. So I don't necessarily blame him. To me, there's really no right or wrong way how to do that. But like I said, I just can't blame the cameraman too much there. It was a horrible scene. It sucks. It sucked. It really sucked, but he's okay now, and the Euros will go on and everything like that. But I just need to bring that up and kind of get my thoughts out on it, because there were a lot of different things and a lot of different moving parts that even as they were going on throughout the day on Saturday, I was kind of like, this is like, and then they would cut to, well, first of all, Taylor Twellman, he was okay for a while. He's the one who did the big USA rant about like 2 years ago when they didn't make, what are we doing? They cut to him in the studio with like 3 other European players, like the studio talk, and he somehow made it about himself again. So Taylor Twellman needs to get out of the studio, whatever. But all these, like when they would go to the studio, they were all these old soccer players, not old, but like retired and now in the media. And they were like, no, UEFA has to do this. You can't continue playing today. Like, there's no harm in moving it to tomorrow morning. There's literally no harm. So that's my gripe with UEFA and that. And then with the cameraman, like I said, he's going to be destroyed online and things like that. But whatever company, if it's ABC, CBS, Bristol, and ESPN, he's going to get a pat on the back when he comes back, because it takes balls to do that. He did that, and unfortunately, that'll probably be the most remembered, captured moment from the Euros, which should have taken place last year, but whatever. But yeah, so I just want to give some thoughts out on that. I don't know if you have any thoughts, really. Like I said, it was a terrible, terrible, terrible situation. I thought the Denmark players and also the fans started chanting his name, both from Finland and Denmark, which is why soccer is the best. I mean, the fans hate each other, but they know what to do. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to get that out in the beginning because I didn't want to dwell on it. I don't know if you have any comments about it.
No, I'm pretty sure that you covered everything that I was going to say anyway. So I think that was a really well thought out take. So props to you for that.
Thank you. And then the only other Euro thing I'll say, and I will say, me and Michael House, guy who does the podcast that was on before us, we are going to do a Euro show basically once a week, recapping everything. We were going to go today, but we decided to let people rest on it for a little bit. We're going to go tomorrow. So we're doing that. But to go to a lighter note, it kind of sucked that England won on Saturday because, first of all, it was their first time winning in the opening game in a major tournament for, I think, like the last 7 tournaments or something like that. And the media, like, people criticize the media in the United States. The media in England would have absolutely crucified those players and that coach, and it would have been hilarious because England is supposed to be this sport where, like, this country where it's all soccer and everything, and they just keep losing. So I'm a bit disappointed that I don't get to, like, pull up some great headlines like that. So that's disappointing. The Euros are going on. Most of the matches have been pretty one-sided. If you do want to see a sweet goal, Tom, this guy scored from 54 yards out. The keeper for Czech Republic, he got a pass at literally the halfway line, even behind it. And the keeper was like kind of like out, not in the goal, but he was out, kind of just like viewing the field.
Right.
And the guy just, I can't remember his name. It's the Czech Republic, so you can guess it's Av something probably. Yeah, he just floated it over, and he floated over him, and the keeper really he was running back, like doing whatever he could, and it just goes like literally right over his head into the goal, and then the keeper just gets tangled in the nets. It was a great goal, and it was a funny scene. So if you want to see something good and not about people almost dying, it was a sweet goal, and you'll probably never see anything like that for the next 10 years. So, but I digress. This is not really about soccer. I just thought that we needed to at least touch on it. So let's go to another one of our favorite sports, which is actually becoming one of my. I don't hate it as much as I used to, but the NBA playoffs. The Suns are just the best team in the West, I think, until Chris Paul gets hurt.
Until Chris Paul gets hurt,
right? I mean, like they swept the Nuggets. Devin Booker and Chris Paul are insane. We talked about it before. What did you think about the ejection with Jokic?
I mean, when you looked at it in real time, right? I didn't really agree with the call whatsoever. You know, you slow it down, then everything looks like a foul. That's kind of my thing with the NBA, with the instant replay and everything. Everything looks like a foul in slow motion.
Yeah.
So I hate it when they go to an injection like that, where they're going to look at the slow motion as like the end all be all.
It's like to me, it's like the NBA and the MLB by implementing this review system. Basically, now in the MLB, every person is caught stealing second because they're able to slow it down, and when they come over the bag, there's like that split second where their body's off the bag, and they call them out. So I think it's ruined that for them. And in the NBA, they just go to it way too damn much. So
yeah, that's the one thing with the MLB. At least they're like trying to cut down on the use, and they've never been into the use of it unless it was like a game-changing decision or wholly incorrect. But with the Jokic ejection, like I didn't agree with it even looking at it into slow motion. It just looks like he's making a play on the basketball. If anyone should have been ejected, it should have been PJ Tucker, because he was all up on Kevin Durant. I'm not saying that because I like Kevin Durant, because I don't. I'm not even a Nets fan. I don't root for him. But if you're going to eject the reigning MVP for the contact of bringing the ball up the court the same way that Kevin Durant was and PJ Tucker had. PJ Tucker had a lot more contact, and it was a lot more unnecessary contact in basketball. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't understand how the two aren't equal.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You made my point for me. I mean, the NBA, it just seems like at least in the NFL and the Major League Baseball, it seems like all the refs are on the same page about the rules. And in the NBA, it's like it's different every night because the refs are all different. It makes no sense. And the refs. It's like I don't want to go back to the guy who cheated. I can't even remember his name by betting on it, whatever. But like, they all have their different opinions on things, and it's like they need to do what the NFL and the MLB has done, and you need to come together and have a set like standard of rules. Or like if it was the Western Conference Finals or not the Western Conference Finals, semifinals, like a big game like that, then the ref needs to come out before the game and tell people, hey, either I'm going to let you play or this one's going to be real tight. So I just didn't get that. And my biggest gripe with Jokic getting ejected, and everyone's going to say this, and I'm sure everyone has said this, there is a negative trillion% chance that LeBron James would have been ejected for that hit. Absolutely zero. Steph Curry would not have been ejected. Honestly, most stars would not have gotten ejected for that, which makes it kind of bush league for me for the NBA to do that to him. And his response, I mean, first of all, after he got ejected, he went up to campaign and apologized and everything. And his response, it kind of made sense. Like, it was like, yeah, I wanted to change the rhythm of the game because we were losing. Like, I wasn't going to like, I wanted to give a hard foul just to maybe like shift the focus. Yeah. And so the NBA, that just, it doesn't make sense to me. And and you're right. Look at it slow motion. Had he not like come across his face, they probably wouldn't have ejected him. But to me, that point is moot because once again, every single player on the Nets, if one of them had done that, one of the big three, none of them would have got ejected. LeBron would have got ejected.
Put even that aside, PJ Tucker, who is by no means a star in this league,
so we're going to
move. Same exact move.
We're going to move on now to the Nets in the Bucks. So go ahead, Tom.
Well, I'm just saying, PJ Tucker did the same exact move and did the same exact foul on Kevin Durant, and I forget who did Jokic foul. Was it Chris Paul?
No, it was Cameron
Payne, right?
Yeah,
another non-star for some reason.
Exactly.
But PJ Tucker did this to Kevin Durant, who is probably the best player left in the playoffs, talent-wise.
Oh yeah.
When he's healthy.
Oh,
The
far and
best
far
player.
away. Yeah.
So the NBA should be on PJ Tucker's butt for doing that to the star player and to the guy that's going to bring in all the tickets, because everyone wants the Nets to win, right? You would think that PJ Tucker would have been ejected as soon as the whistle was blown. But he played the whole game. All he did was complain that he got called for a foul that he didn't think was a foul, and he didn't get ejected. Jokic does the same exact thing on a non-star, and he gets ejected.
Yeah,
Like,
and
this is what's wrong with the NBA.
Yeah. And actually, I'll bring up someone that I think this is exactly how the NBA is run as well. Is when Pete Alonso, the Mets first baseman, he said, what did he say a couple of weeks ago? He was like, the MLB changes the balls based on the free agency class, which isn't a terrible take. I don't know if that's right in whatever. I'm not going to crucify him for that either, because MLB does do stuff like that. They do weird things like that. But moving this over to the NBA, it's almost like the NBA, just like before every night or all day, they have like 3 staffers that read Twitter through and through and figure out the storylines that the world wants to see, and then they go with that. Like the world, like Kevin Durant is I guess not devil, like the villain kind of right now, and like everyone likes it, so they're gonna let PJ Tucker basically get all up in Kevin Durant's jockstrap all game and not saying anything about it, because they want clearly that game was like. And it also plays over to the Jokic thing, where they were like, okay, this one's over. Let's just finish it now in 4. To me, that's not, I'm sure, what they thought, but to me, that kind of is how they think. People wanted to see the Bucks and Giannis get his thing. And don't get me started on Giannis, or else I'll go for an hour. So to take Pete Alonso's analogy over to the NBA, that would have, if someone in the NBA would have said that, they probably would have been fined.
100%.
And B, they would have been correct, because I really do think that the NBA and Adam Silver. Did you see him? He was in Milwaukee yesterday. People were showing him around like the Deer Park or whatever, like the district around the stadium that's like the party stadium. So whatever. But I really do think that's what the NBA does. They and it's not a terrible business model, but it's not how you should do a sport. But
100%, especially for a sport that brings in trillions and trillions of dollars.
And people always not get on us really, but we talk about the NFL. It's because the NFL, out of all 3 of the major sports, or 4 of the major sports, I would even probably rank hockey higher than maybe baseball. But like out of all the major sports, they just they make some stupid decisions, but they usually correct them. And then if they don't, it's just like, it's not like they don't make these big, like, other than the pass interference for the Saints or whatever that was like 2-3 years ago, like they don't make these big time game changing ejections. Like, let's be honest, and I don't want to bring, this isn't a Browns thing, but last year in the playoffs, the Browns played the Chiefs, and Rashard Higgins right before halftime fumbles out of the back of the end zone. That sucks. We see the replay, and it's like, that was straight helmet-to-helmet contact. Like, fine, give them the ball. That's fine. That guy needs to be ejected. Or you need to implement something else, which I think we should have a show one of these days coming up before the NFL about just the stupid rules of the NFL, because the out of the back of the end zone thing is the stupidest rule ever, unless it happens for your team, and then you're like, it's the greatest rule. So there's definitely some rules out there that I could see being done without. But yeah, the NFL, just like I said, they don't make these big season-changing mistakes and maybe it's because there's less games. I don't know, but all it does is back up my theory that the NFL is better than every other sport. So that's what I'm going to go with.
You're preaching to the choir on that one.
But other than we'll go back to the Nets and Brooklyn, or not the Nets and the Bucks. I mean, I said it to you before we got started. I mean, this is why you don't create super teams to go all for one like this, especially with guys like Kyrie and Harden. Harden and Kyrie both have had like books of injuries in the playoffs and in crunch time. Like, And now, like, I got to tell you, I think Kevin Durant can probably beat with the crew that's around him, because the crew isn't that, like, Joe Harris is probably the best spot up and shoot 3-pointer in the NBA. So I think they could beat the Bucks with just Kevin Durant, but they have no chance against the Suns or the Clippers if they come out. So
No, not a chance. Especially like I don't understand what the Nets were really thinking was going to happen, because as you said before and said when we were talking about it, Kyrie Irving and James Harden and Kevin Durant have an injury history that is very prominent when it comes to the playoffs. They do not play the entirety of the playoffs.
And like, this should have been the first warning sign for the Nets should have been the whole last season when Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving missed the whole season. Like, maybe you should have gone into your GM's brain and be like, those guys just missed 82 games. What are the chances that they're going to be able to play 82 games this year, plus probably at least 30 more if you're going to win the finals? Like, have some common sense.
And then that's red flag number one. Red flag number two was the amount of games that the three of them were on the court together. It was not 50 games. It was not 40 games. It was not 30 games. I'm pretty sure during the regular season, the amount of games that they were all healthy for and all played together for was 20 or under. Yeah, one of them was always hurt. And yes, that number doubles or is, 2.5 times bigger if you look at just how many times they had two or more. But the point remains the same. It's not like they played 70 games where at least two of them are on the court. And it was always a rotation of who was on the court.
And this is kind of where I go back to, like, the beginning of the super teams. And I'm not even going to count that Celtics team really as a super team that kind of just all came together. The biggest reason that LeBron was able to form a super team, and people this is why LeBron has been probably the best player in the last 30 years. Kobe Bryant's a very close second, and I think Kevin Durant is a very distant third. LeBron James was always healthy. Like, he never went into playoff, like, even with the Heat and when the Cavs, like, he played, like, by the end of his career, as much as I'd like to, people hate LeBron, and I actually have something to bring up in a sec about that, but, like, he's played a million games, so, and he's always been healthy. So the idea of the super teams surrounding LeBron always worked because LeBron was the main man and he was always able to stay healthy. I mean, and just face it, LeBron was the better overall player than Kevin Durant because, I mean, you saw it. He took the East is, let's be real, way weaker than the West has been. But, I mean, he took I always want to bring up, like, in 2009 when LeBron took the Cavs to the title versus Spurs, and they got swept. So it really, I mean, the Pistons would have maybe been a little bit closer. But the cast that surrounded LeBron James that he took to the finals, like, if you look back on some of the names, it's absolutely, like, it's disgusting.
It was horrible.
So, I feel like that. And the last comment I'll make about LeBron, it's easy to hate LeBron, and I love LeBron because I respect LeBron because he won us a championship. I don't like his antics and everything else. But Anthony Edwards, I don't know if you saw this. He came out, I think he posted on Instagram. He came out and he was like, I've never seen such an amazing athlete that people love to hate more in their entire lives than LeBron James. And he was like, I'm just happy that I got to watch him. And he's completely right because you can hate LeBron, you can hate his antics, even in his older age. People love to hate him. And the new saying is like, oh, he lives rent free in your head. Yes, LeBron lives rent free in everyone's head because of what he is. So I just thought I'd put that Anthony Edwards thing in there because it's like I wasn't like mad or happy or sad that LeBron bopped out of the playoffs in the first round. It was just like whatever. But the people who just pile on, it's like, I mean, the guy's done what maybe other than Michael Jordan and maybe like Bill Russell, like he's done things that no one else has done in this sport. So I just think people have gone a little overboard lately with that. But whatever. And that's why we don't talk about the NBA a lot because it takes too long and it's always something like controversial. So we will move to, unless you got anything else. Anything else on the NBA playoffs?
Not really. I mean, saying LeBron was always healthy, like yes, he played in a lot of the games, but he also left the games early pretty often, as we saw with his game 4, game 5 exit, and then the next night. I'm just saying that
But
shows a lot. And he
I
had a little
mean,
cramp thing. He had the cramping thing in San Antonio. You
all
know.
right. So you're the exact type of people Anthony Edwards is talking about. That's good. But no, I was really more taught. Yeah, okay. And I said that. I said in his later years he's done that. When LeBron was in Miami, and then when he was with the Cavs, he never left games early. The only thing he ever did, and it was right before he left, so we all knew it was happening, was when he didn't shake hands after the Celtics beat them, and then he left for Miami. So people are going to disagree on LeBron. I don't care. He's going to go down as either the best player in the history of basketball or the second best player. So, and to me, that argument really doesn't matter. And I think people are never going to stop having that argument because it's fun. But it's two different times, two different eras. Like you can't compare that. So, whatever. Move on to the MLB, and hopefully some happier news for you. I mean, the things that Jacob DeGrom. Do you have his? Can you pull up his numbers?
Yeah.
The things that he is doing, and not even the pitching. He's a legitimately average MLB hitter. It's insane. Like I don't know. Someone maybe pointed this out earlier. Basically, Shohei Ohtani came over and was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be this big." And Jacob DeGrom is not that. He is a good hitter. He's not like a power hitter kind of thing like that. But Jacob DeGrom saw Shohei Ohtani do that, and he was just like, I can do it. I just don't have to.
So I have his pitching stats. As of right now, he has a 75 win percentage when he pitches. He has a .56 ERA.
That's insane. That's insane.
He what's CG? Complete games. He has one complete game, one shutout. 64 innings pitched. In 64 innings pitched, he has allowed 26 hits. And has allowed 7 total runs. And has 103 strikeouts over 64 innings pitched.
So he's allowed 7 total runs. I believe, at least up until yesterday, I believe he's actually batted in more runs than runs have crossed his plate. So,
and right now for his batting, he has 10 hits. And he has 5 RBIs. So yes, up until
yeah. I mean, it's insane. And like I said this before. I'm happy you guys got Frankie. Of all the teams that he could have gone to, I thought the Mets was okay. That's fine with me. I'm still pissed at the Dolans and the baseball team, but that has nothing to do with the Mets.
Right.
And if he doesn't win a World Series at some point, and this also I don't know how long he's under contract.
I just also want to point out he's batting 400. His contract, I'll pull up in a minute here.
You don't have to pull up his contract, but I feel like as a Mets fan, if the rest of his contract, if they don't win a World Series or at least get back to the World Series, I feel like you can't blame him for walking, leaving.
I mean, I don't really.
He doesn't seem like that kind of dude to me, anyways. But it's almost like when not really because they were never as good as DeGrom, but the Indians have had good pitchers, and every time they would get flamed or they would perform terrible in the playoffs, and then they would get bounced or whatever. I was like, our pitching got us this way, so if they want to go find somewhere else where they can win, that's fine. And I know the Dolans aren't going to pay them, so whatever. But I'm happy that the Mets are good, and the Mets being better than the Yankees is just so awesome, and the Red Sox. So that's incredible to me.
Jacob DeGrom is going to be a free agent in 2025 is the next time. So 4 years from now.
Yeah, he'll stay. I mean, at that point,
he's going to be a Met for life at that point because he also started later than most pitchers. Yeah, he only started coming on when he hit around 30, I think. Maybe a little bit earlier, late 20s then, but. Yeah. Definitely not as young as some of these other guys, and so he's kind of been in the Mets organization since day one. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's just a Met for life.
Yeah, and I mean he's been developed through the Mets and everything like that, and his numbers will go down at some point because hopefully not this year. I think this year he could finish with probably the best pitching season in the history of baseball. I will say with the Mets, they've done a great job for the most part. While they haven't done a good job with this with the other pitchers, but they have done a good job with DeGrom and keeping his innings down and his arm healthy. So he's 31 now, I believe, if not 32.
33.
Okay, well, I was wrong. Verlander was good till he was about 37. I think Jacob DeGrom, especially because you said like he came through later. Jacob DeGrom could be a top 10 pitcher in the MLB probably till he's like 39 or 40. I really think that.
Well, because a lot of his game and what's really good for his game is that he's not a Nolan Ryan type guy. He's not going out there and throwing 100 consistently for every inning of every game. His game doesn't entirely revolve around how fast he can throw the ball. He's very good at placement. He has really good movement, and he's really good with the mechanics and hiding the ball and making it as difficult for the hitters to hit the baseball as possible.
Yeah, and this is kind of stupid, but it's kind of fun. Like I always sometimes like see these performances, and like there'll be a 99 overall rating in like MLB The Show, and it'll be like that's too low. Like he's better than a 99 overall.
Right.
Like even if you play in the game with him, like he'll give up a hit. In real life, like he won't give up a hit. Like
he won't give up a hit.
So,
I'm gonna talk about it again one more time. But the Mets game that I went to about a month ago now was he made like a surprise start. They announced it the day before we were going to the game. We got to see him beat up on the Nationals. He pitched a complete game. I think that was the one complete game that he's pitched all year I was at. 15 strikeouts. No runs, only allowed 2 hits, and he went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs.
It's crazy.
I mean, it was the single greatest performance from a pitcher that I have ever witnessed in my lifetime.
Yeah, and it was a surprise too. So that's,
it was even better.
and the thing I'll like kind of relating it back to India is like they were saying the things that like Bieber was doing. DeGrom was obviously great last year as well, but they were saying like the things that Shane Bieber was doing last year was like crazy and amazing. And then DeGrom saw that last year and was like, I can do better than that.
Anything you can do, I do better than you.
And I love Shane Bieber, but I honestly think that Jacob DeGrom like looked at his Bieber's stats from last year and was like, you know what, I'm gonna have some fun this year. I'm just gonna make everyone forget that even happened.
Well, and what's also really great for me, because all of the people around me in the New Jersey area, you find very few Mets fans, but a lot of people are Yankees fans. What's really great for me is to just see how crappy Garrett Cole has been pitching since they announced the suspension for the foreign substances, because his spin rate has like basically cut down by like 25%. He's letting up. The first game that he pitched after they announced it, he let up 5 runs, I think, in his start. He hasn't let up more than 2 in another start the rest of the year. So it's really great for me to see the Yankees struggling so much while the Mets have Jacob DeGrom. It really warms my heart.
That's why, and this is kind of for both of us, that's why it was so great to see the Patriots be bad last year.
Exactly.
Like, I was like, after the season ended last year in the NFL, we're going to get to the NFL right after this, but like after the Browns lost in the playoffs, like, I was like, great season. But then like a part of me kicked in and was like, wait, it was even better because the Patriots were terrible.
They were horrible. They didn't make the playoffs. It was great.
Which actually brings me up another point I didn't put on the outline, but we'll get to it in the NFL. So let's move on to the NFL. I have something on the baseball team. I don't know 3/4 of the players on the roster. The Dolans are a joke. I every time like I see someone tweeting or watching the baseball team, I'm like, why? Like, why waste your time doing that? So honestly, at this point, I hope they move. I hope they move, or I hope they sell, because bring in an NHL team or something like that. Bring in some other sport. I don't care, because like the Dolans are such a joke. And the fact that like actually, because like early on, like not maybe like 10, 7 years ago, I didn't know that this Dolan was connected to the other Dolans. And now that I know that, it just all makes sense. And it's just like,
it's like someone gave you like a pill to have an epiphany.
Yeah. And I'll end it with this. I'll say this. The craziest thing that they ever did was the Indians had that, or the baseball team, I'm sorry, had that great run to the World Series where they should have won it. Had there been no rain delay, they would have won it over the Cubs. And then the next year, they raised ticket prices and cut all the players that were making money after they raked in like an extra almost like millions of dollars just because of the playoffs. It's just like backwards. So
Exactly. Like they're like, oh, well, I want to cut spending because there's a really good prospect coming up, and I want to pay him money 5 or 10 years down the line.
And it's like yeah, they were really close to the World Series last year. Like they were like basically 2 hours from the win. So without like I can't think of his name. Who's the dude that used to play for the Edward Encarnacion? They cut him. Carlos Santana, they got him out. Like just yeah, they could. It's going to be Francisco Lindor, Jose Ramirez, and then the pitching staff, which consisted of Shane Bieber, Carlos Carrasco was old, Corey Kluber was old, and then who knows? So, oh yeah, and the relievers that got us here, they're gone. Cody Allen, bye. Andrew Miller, bye. So I'm done. I'm done with that.
Oh, and wait, what was Miguel Sano? Wasn't he on your team?
No, he was never on our team.
I always mix him up.
He's on the Twins.
He's on the, yeah, I always mix them up because the colors are the same.
Which
jerseys and stuff.
Last thing I'll say about baseball is, I think we talked about it maybe last week one time. I just don't. I don't know how you can be a Pirates fan.
It's super unfortunate.
Like and like their owner or their GM must have made a comment over the weekend. People were kind of like, they like openly tell people that they are not going to be winning in the next 10 years. So, like, I don't know how they sell season tickets. Like I said, that stadium is awesome, and the city of Pittsburgh, where it's at, is cool. That's worse than I can't think of like a worse situation. Like, because in most sports, like NFL and NBA, like you can see your rookies like at least growing and becoming better. In the MLB, they're just stuck in single A and double A for 5 years, so you don't even know. So
you don't know what you have until like 10 years later.
Yeah, and that's basically what the Pirates are like pitching to their fans. They're like, yeah, we keep drafting these guys, and then 10 years we might make the playoffs. So it's bad. But we'll move on to our bread and butter, the NFL. New news. I don't know if it's breaking. You may have known this before. I did. I didn't know. Jamison Crowder is going to take a pay cut to stay with the Jets. What are your thoughts on that?
They didn't really do much. We still have him for the year, which is great, and we have a little more cap space because of it. But it's not like they extended him and they're giving him more money or more years or anything. He's still going to be a free agent after this season. So it was great to clear out some cap space, but you kind of tipped your hand a little bit. And if you ever were going to trade him for anything, it deflates the value, right? A little bit because they know.
It deflates. Like, unless you're, I don't know, like the Chiefs or the Bucks, and maybe like Mike Evans or like Mecole Hardman goes down, like you're not trading. Most teams wouldn't trade for a very, very, very good receiver for a rental for a couple weeks. So
and maybe they would. Maybe a team like the Ravens, who have a little bit of an issue with their cap and are in desperate needs of receivers, that might be a little more appealing to that specific team. But it deflates his value a little bit because you tipped your hand in the fact that he's not a long-term guy for you and you don't love him in comparison to the other guys in your roster. So they know that you're trying to get rid of him, and they're not going to offer you as much for that. That's why, some of these other guys that like, oh, I want to be traded, don't really go for anything. Tom Brady wanted out of New England, and didn't they trade like a 6th or 7th rounder for Tom Brady?
Yeah, I mean, we
Same
talked
thing
about
with Gronk.
We talked about this last week. I think I probably equated it to Madden. I don't know why teams just don't trade like all their picks for these players. I don't get it. Like, and I don't know who I was talking to last week, maybe one of my family members, but I was like, they were like, would you trade the next 2 first-round picks, the Browns' first-round picks for like Jalen Ramsey, or maybe it was a different player? I was like, yes, absolutely, because the chances that so you're basically giving a team another 2 chances at Jalen Ramsey, and the odds are still in your favor that you're not going to find a player as good as Jalen Ramsey. So
Right.
NFL trades make no sense to me, but hey, that's
But
why I
that's
play
what I'm saying with Crowder. Like, yeah, it's more appealing that he's not as much of a cap hit. But you're tipping your hand. You're going to get probably you could have gotten maybe a third or even a second rounder from someone like the Ravens who are desperate. Yeah. You could have. Now, I would be surprised if we got anything more than a fourth.
Yeah, and the only way I think he gets traded this year is if you have one of those top tier teams that a receiver goes down. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if OBJ goes down again or Rashard Higgins goes down, I'd be lobbying me being stupid, of course. I would be like, trade the first round pick next year for Jamison Crowder. We want to win the Super Bowl this year. Doesn't matter. So that's
right.
But that's stupid GM Justin talking, not real GMs who have real jobs. So that's the major, in case you all were wondering who are listening, that's the major difference between me and most NFL general managers. It's just that I'm dumber. So that's it.
It's just I'm dumber.
I didn't put this on the outline, but I needed to bring it up pretty quickly. So you're using my ESPN Plus, right?
I have my own now.
I do remember you saying it, bro. So if you go in there, the ESPN Plus ranked the best off seasons.
Okay, let me.
And so first was Tampa Bay. I agree with that.
I agree. They bring back the whole Super Bowl team.
Yeah, bringing back 22 starters from a Super Bowl team. They did nothing, but you can't do anything in there. And then number 2, they had the Patriots.
What?
I swear. And they tried to make this rationality that, like, they tried to rationalize it when basically the truth is they far away overpaid for Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar, and maybe one other receiver. They misunderstood the market for receivers and they way overpaid them. And like, and they, I'll give them credit. They even made this point. They're like, I mean, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry right now, they're not, like, even together, they're not worth the money they're making. So,
well, it was terrible. Let's not forget they overpaid Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I get it's not a huge contract because starting quarterbacks make a stupid amount of money now. It's still $17 million for Cam Newton, who couldn't complete a pass more than 5 yards down the field.
Yes. And so obviously I was angry about the Patriots. The Browns came in 10th, which is, in my opinion, far too low because they basically retooled an entire defense under the salary cap and through the draft. So 10 was way too low for me. Let me close my door real quick.
I found the article that you were referring to. Let me see their rationale. You're way too low for the Browns.
Yeah, it's way too low. But I wasn't even gonna make it. Well, I did. I wrote an article about it, but I wasn't gonna make a stink about it. But the one that really, really got me was the Ravens at 4.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Gut reaction or like snap reaction. The Ravens at 4.
And they tried to rationalize this whole thing. Like, they traded Orlando Brown, so they got Rashad Bateman, and then they went on the free agent market and signed like the next best great right tackle in Alejandro Villanueva. And I was like, he's terrible, A, and B, he's like 38. Like,
well, and not only that, they mentioned Rashad Bateman. What is so great about signing Sammy Watkins?
That was the other one. Thank you. I was like, Sammy Watkins couldn't receive the ball from Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback. He was never an option, really. So I was.
Well, and their what went wrong situation. Orlando Brown, yes, he should not have gone. You should have just let him play left tackle or whatever he wanted because he wanted the more money. You should have just let him because he was. How often do you find a guy like that of that talent? And you lost Matt Judon to the Patriots and haven't signed a replacement. Again, another really young guy that could be great for your defense because your defense is already very, very good, and the Ravens are a team that are notoriously good for their defense. And you let a guy walk for no reason.
I just, like, of all the ones, I mean, there are some other ones in there that I kind of questioned as well, but the Ravens just made. I mean, they basically, and then I apparently you have it pulled up because you're basically quoting it word for word for. But they got Kevin Zeitler. Kevin Zeitler is still good but was great when he played for the Browns, and I think he was okay for the Giants when he played for them.
He was all right.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say he was the best
yeah.
or the worst, but he was all right.
Yeah, and so they make this big deal about how they retooled the offensive line with Kevin Zeitler. I was like, Orlando Brown is a million times better than him. Like, whatever.
Right.
So that's all I wanted to cover.
Well, and I just want to bring up one more. Like the Saints at 7. How can you tell me that the Saints had a better offseason than the Browns when all they did was mess around with Taysom Hill's contract and re-sign Jameis Winston? They didn't work out extensions for Marshawn Lattimore, and I never pronounced the guy's name. Who's the O-lineman that's really good for them? Ramczyk or whatever his name is.
Oh, Ryan Ramczyk.
Sure.
Yeah.
They didn't get extensions on them. They allegedly are paying Taysom Hill how much money? What was it? 140 mil in voidable contract? They didn't sign anyone. They lost Jared Cook. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. They lost Sheldon Rankins. All they really did was bring back some of their vets and sign people to very questionable contracts. How are they better than the Browns?
And this is, now that you bring it up, it brings me back. One of the main problems they said with the Browns offseason is they didn't find that other defensive end. And there can be a point that is made that would say that Jadeveon Clowney, odds are he's not going to be healthy. So I can understand that. But at the same time, it's still a better signing. Like, the only thing that was available out there maybe would have been like Melvin Ingram. You overpay for Bud Dupree or whatever. It's just,
Matt Judon.
Yeah, and then they made the comment about Sheldon Richardson, who is probably coming back, and B, basically they signed a clone of him, maybe a year older, in Malik Jackson. So their whole rationale, like I think I said to my dad, I was like, I honestly think, and credit to them, it's their job. I think they do these rankings to just get people riled up. I really do. Like Pete Prisco's top 100 list, Baker Mayfield wasn't on there, and Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan were on there. So, and Nick Chubb was like 63rd, and Ezekiel Elliott was like 57th. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Well, and like I know I want to get off this topic, or I don't want to be the reason that we keep going on to this topic, but like the Jets are at 11. The Jets had a good offseason for the Jets. That doesn't put them anywhere close to the top 10. Like, and I'm a very realistic person. They go, what went wrong? Douglas paid dearly in the Elijah Vera Tucker trade, where they swapped a bunch of picks and whatever. And then they were like, oh, the Vikings moved down and still got the best, highest ranked guy on the board for the tackles. So what? That's a move. Like, that's not a negative in my opinion. But what isn't what is a negative is this whole Crowder situation. Right?
Yeah.
And they don't even mention that in the entire article.
Yeah, I agree. It's come to my point. It's just basically come to my attention. I really do think that they do things to get people talking. And like I said, that's their job. And we just talked about it for a good 20 minutes. So they are also living rent-free in our brains. But hey, I like it. They can keep living rent-free in my brain because I love the NFL.
I am all about the NFL.
All right. Still with the NFL. We'll probably do this quickly, PGA, and then we'll probably close it down. All right. But Stephon Gilmore is skipping.
Yep.
It's mandatory minicamp, isn't it?
Yeah, he. I think the excuse is that he's dealing with a surgery or he's dealing with an injury, so he won't be there. But it's really about his new deal.
Yeah, and Belichick's. I mean, he's proven in the past he's not going to give in. He's just not.
Rehabbing from a partially torn quad is the injury.
I don't want to say anything because that seems insensitive, but okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And that I mean, it kind of brings us back to the offseason rankings. Like, they didn't really mention Stephon Gilmore and the fact that he's basically the best defensive player they have, or if not the best, one of them. And there's a very good chance that he won't be playing for them this year because A, he's either going to sit out, B, he's going to ask for a trade, or C, he's going to end up playing and play unhappily and probably not be as good. So, and then the next point, I kind of brought it together. I mean, we could continue to talk about Aaron Rodgers for days. I guess this is just a new part of our show. I guess we'll just add Stephon Gilmore. Where do we think Stephon Gilmore and Aaron Rodgers end up?
Well, if we look at just Stephon Gilmore for now, I think one of the more insight options, let's say, is between the Colts and the Browns.
I agree.
I know you're big on him coming to the Browns. You've been talking about it since the draft and a draft day move for Gilmore. And I agree.
I'd rather seen Marshawn Lattimore, but that's okay.
100%. I agree. Obviously, you want the younger, more talented person. Not more talented, equally talented, but he's younger. You can have it for a longer period of time. But with the Colts, they've kind of built their roster up and their defense up mainly off of their front line and their linebackers and to a certain extent their safeties. But they're not afraid to take on older corners, as we just saw them revitalize Xavier Rhodes. So
yeah, had a good season last year. So did Pierre Desir. He was a good slot last year, yeah.
So they can work with older guys like that. And yeah. I think that it would be a perfect fit because they're looking to make a push.
And the only thing I'll say, I would think if it came down to the Browns or the Colts, which who knows, it could. I think the Browns have more to offer, in my opinion.
Probably.
Thinking like Belichick, you got to think he's going to want a young guy. And I don't really want to give up on it yet, but I would trade Greedy Williams in money or picks for Stephon Gilmore in a second. And I don't care if he if he only plays for 1 year and that's this year, that's okay. Because I'm kind of out on Greedy Williams. Like they got Greg Newsome, and then they got Troy Hill, and they obviously have Denzel, who, in my opinion, is vastly underrated in the NFL, but he is small, so it really doesn't help him. But yeah, so I would think they would have more to offer. But yeah, I just don't see that's a situation where I don't know what's going to happen because Belichick isn't going to give in, and so I don't know what's going to happen with that. With Aaron Rodgers, as every day passes, I think it goes up like percentage points that he's literally just going to sit out the season.
I mean, I sort of agree. I think he's going to end up getting traded by preseason, but the biggest problem with trading him is now you're not going to get the offers that you would like for him because they know he wants out. That's kind of what we were talking about with Crowder. His value is deflated.
Like I got to tell you, if I'm not the Browns, who needs a quarterback? Denver isn't a team that I could see, John Elway. I could see him going all in for Aaron Rodgers for a year, and that might work, whatever. But these young teams that have kind of started taking over the NFL, really, with the Chiefs, the Bills, the Rams to an extent, and even though they got a little bit older, but they got better with Matthew Stafford. Like I'm not willing to if other than, like I said, like the Broncos are a team that is going into the season with just an absolute question mark at quarterback, even then, like I'll trade 1 first-round pick for him at the most. Like, because if not, then like he's either just not going to play or the whole, yeah. So I just don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't think he gets traded, like I said, just because they're not going to get what they want in return for him. And Aaron Rodgers, it almost kind of reflects back to Bill Belichick. Aaron Rodgers is kind of like that, where I don't think he's going to give in. Yeah,
and if you wanted to look at it, right, and I'm always looking for the dark horse picks. You know, we talked about the dark horse pick with the Julio Jones trade, and it happened to work out. If I'm both of these guys, if I'm Stephon Gilmore, a team that I think could potentially go in all in for him is the Raiders. Because the Raiders have this infatuation with corners. That's why they draft them every single year way too high. Right? But they're the exact type of team that'll give Bill Belichick what he wants. Right?
And they're stupid enough.
And they're stupid enough to do it because Gruden is playing Maylock like a puppet.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're looking for another dark horse team for Rodgers, again, I would say the Raiders potentially. If they don't love Derek Carr, they can swap them and do whatever you're going to do. Mariota involved, young guys, whatever. But if you're looking for a true dark horse for Aaron Rodgers, the Washington football team. I know they just brought in Fitzpatrick, but it's a 1-year deal. He's an older guy, even older than Rodgers, and he's not a long-term answer. With the team that they have now, though, they are ready to win. They are ready to go and win that really crappy division in the NFC East. And we saw them hang with the Buccaneers because of their defense. Imagine Aaron Rodgers running that offense with Scary Terry, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, and Curtis Samuel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel.
I like that pick, but the only thing that would kind of say maybe now with the football team is they're very young, and that's good, and they're very good. And I feel like they're kind of hoping they do well this season, maybe make the playoffs, and then they draft a quarterback next year. Mm-hmm. Because like if I'm the football team, you're gonna have to give up at least one first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers, I would think. And if you can get him without a first-round pick and just like players and some picks, basically other than anyone on the defense, I would say everyone is available. Probably.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that the Packers are going to look at the Washington football team and say they have so many things that I would like that I'd be willing to drop. I truly think that the Washington football team does not need all 5 or 6 of the defensive guys that they have on that immediate line. You could trade away Montez Sweat.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Another guy on Montez Sweat, a guy from the linebacking core or the secondary, and a pick or two of any round. And that would be a really nice haul for the Packers because that's getting them young talent on defense and a couple picks. In return, the Washington football team getting a starting quarterback that could put them in serious Super Bowl contention for the next 5 years.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right? 5 years. And if you were talking about them potentially drafting a quarterback, they just signed Taylor Heineke, a young guy who Ron Rivera really likes, to I think a 2 or a 3 year deal. So he can play behind Rodgers. They can see what they have in him after Rodgers is kind of like there and he's taking notes, doing whatever. And if it works out, great. And if not, then you can go and draft a quarterback after you get your first round picks back.
This is the last thing I'll say on it. I think the biggest thing with the Packers right now, and they're refusing to come out and say it, which is smart because they shouldn't. Jordan Love kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you don't get Aaron Rodgers back in that Green Bay uniform, you're looking at a pretty bad year next year, and then a pretty bad year after that as well, because you're probably not going to be high enough to draft one of the top quarterbacks next year, no matter what. So
you're expecting Jordan Love to start. I will remind you, sir, that one Blake Bortles signed with the Green Bay Packers.
I'm all for the Bortles train to play for the Packers.
If he starts week 1, we're gonna have to get like Blake Bortles t-shirts.
I'll buy it, but I'll buy a Blake Bortles Jaguars jersey. Not Packers, Jaguars.
I'll buy a Packers t-shirt with his number printed on it.
Yeah, that would be if the NFL were to start like with like the week before the NFL, was it like the news comes out that Gilmore has been traded to Oakland for Oakland's next 42 first-round picks, and that Blake Bortles is the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. Like, I don't even know if I'd watch week 1. I would watch all. I take it back. I would watch all of it. I'd watch every game. I'd be like, oh my god, this is the most interesting league ever.
Once I have my monitors and everything set up, I'll have the Packer game on my laptop right here. I'll have the Raider game right here. I'll have Red Zone on over here so I can watch the replays 30 seconds after they happen. It'll be awesome. Blake Bortles going to the Super Bowl with the Packers.
Hey, I'm all on the Bortles train. So the last thing I'll say about NFL, we'll get to free agency probably. Let's do that Wednesday, and then we'll do the fantasy into Wednesday. If you live in Cleveland or the surrounding area, if you weren't at Jarvis Landry's charity softball game on Saturday, you're a nobody, which means I'm a nobody. That's fine. Everybody was there. It was, however he's gotten how big this is. It's awesome. I'm sure. Well, I'm sure it does. I know it does. It goes to charity. It's a great event. I mean, Travis Kelce was. It was Travis Kelce. He picked his team, and then Jarvis Landry picked his team. Baker was hitting bombs. Henry Ruggs was there. Like, but at all this time, like in the back of my head, I'm like, this stuff just isn't good. Like, I'm going to be let down so horribly come football season. I hope not, but no, the charity softball game is sweet. Fox News, not Fox, whatever, the news around here, they showed up, it was like 8 a.m. and they played at the Captain's, Lake County Captain's. It's the baseball team's single A affiliate. They played at that stadium. Browns fans were like tailgating at 8 o'clock in the morning, just to watch the softball game. So that shows you Browns fans are just the best. Also, so are Suns fans. I don't know if you saw it last night, but whenever they got back, they basically everyone was like all the fans were surrounding their cars when they were driving out, and DeAndre Ayton was going crazy. I'm all in on the Suns. If there's anything that can bring me back to being an NBA fan, it's some new blood. New blood,
man. Yeah.
So, all right, we'll get to something I think we need to touch on real quick. We'll probably touch on it more maybe Wednesday. If the PGA is smart and has any sense at all, they need to pair Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka together this weekend. I'm sure Bryson DeChambeau will do everything in his power not to be paired with Brooks Koepka, but I'm telling you right now, it used to be if Tiger was in it, I would watch The Last Day. If Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau are in the same grouping 4 days, I will watch from Thursday nonstop until Sunday afternoon because no, when they're on the course, I'll say that. So I'll take breaks, but I will watch all of their holes because that I mean, we're not going to explain the feud between them. If you honestly want to figure it out, just go search Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau on Google. You'll find out everything.
You'll find everything. Literally everything.
in everything you want to know, and probably some things you didn't want to know. So
that's true.
That's awesome. I really think they need to do that. Like I said, they would get higher ratings than when Tiger won the Masters. True. We have our Mount Rushmore of chocolate. We want to do that, or you don't want to get out of here?
Let's get that in on Wednesday as well.
All right, I agree. I think the chocolate one. I do have to say, your Reese's Pieces last time did not fly with the Brownlow family.
The Brownlow family. It's peanut butter.
Yeah, but the coating is chocolate.
No, it's sugar.
Okay, well, we can have that argument. You know what? We'll have the argument on Wednesday because it's coming up. We're gonna do the Mount. Everyone send in what your favorite candy bars are. Maybe we'll do a poll. See who's everyone's favorite candy bar. I gotta say, if it's something weird like Three Musketeers, I'm probably gonna ban you from listening to our podcast because that means
if it's a Toblerone bar. Respect a Toblerone.
I've never even heard of that.
They're actually pretty good, but
what are they?
So basically, it's like chocolate, nougat, and like this like rice, almost like a Rice Krispie kind of thing. In there.
Okay.
They're super good, and they come in like little mountain shape, and you break it off, and it spells out Toblerone, and you bite out break off a little part. They're really good.
I'll have to look.
Definitely pick one up. Pick one up. They're really good. But if Toblerone is your favorite, I'm sorry, mad respect, but please leave.
Exactly. This is like a Reese's, Snickers. Let's be real about it. So yeah, we'll be back at it on Wednesday. I think we're gonna do a little bit of NFL free agency, and then we're gonna actually talk about some fantasy football coming up because no one knows because it hasn't been released yet. I don't know why or if it ever will. Who knows? I am learning how to do fantasy football this year. I will be going to an expo in maybe Tom will be there as well in August.
Yep.
So I'm trying to learn fantasy football. So Tom is going to be basically my teacher for Wednesday, and it should be a good show. Anything else, Tom?
Go Dogs, baby. You already know.
All righty. See you guys later.
Welcome to the man cave.